The Bargain Bin Gamer would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which this show is created. We extend our respects to elders past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people enjoying this program today.
Double T Media.
You're listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
I am an elderly gay man who likes to play cheap horror games and then make YouTube videos about them. This is the Bargain Bin Gamer. Welcome back, my dear friends, to the Bargain Bin Gamer, a Double T Media production here on the BQN Podcast Network. My name is Davey Willett, my pronouns are he and him, and I am here to play the cheapest and most shittest video games out there so that you don't have to. But hopefully, I find you a few hidden gems along the way. It is Halloween week still. We have done 2 Halloween videos already, and here is a third one. Who would know I would go from not releasing any content for months to release 3 videos at least in 1 week, and guess what? I've got more coming for you. I'm really excited about today's one because I have actually played a game today which managed to scare me just a tiny little bit.
Welcome back to Spooooky Bargains!
So here's the thing. The horror genre is actually my favourite genre of game. I love a good scary game, one that actually makes me feel something deep down within my good self, because feelings are fun to have. That's why this game has actually been my favourite so far, because it's the closest thing to being actually scary. The Shadow over Route 80 comes from the ITO project and only cost me $2.95. Shadow over Route 80 is the perfect game for me, as it only takes 10 to 15 minutes to do a single playthrough. Like the other Spooky Bargains I have reviewed, it has the potential for multiple endings. However, I only played through it once because ain't nobody got time for that. Although I will admit, this has been the most enjoyable spooky title for me so far. It's a first-person game that is more psychological thriller than survival horror. You are what I would call a petrol station attendant and what my American friends would call a gas station attendant. It is the middle of the night and you are working a lonely shift somewhere deep within the American wheat belt. The wheat belt is something I had to look up, as I only ever heard about the Rust or Bible belts, both of which terrify me more than any horror game. But some geography for you today, Bargain Bin Gamers. The wheat belt is the part of the North American Great Plains where wheat is the dominant crop. The belt extends along a north-south axis for more than 1,500 miles, or 2,400 kilometers for those of you in the civilized world. It goes from central Alberta, Canada to central Texas in the US. It is subdivided into winter wheat and spring wheat areas. Thank you, Google. Now back to the game. You start the game completing the mundane task of mopping up what looks like piss from the shop floor, which is a foreboding sign that weird shit has already gone down. However, things escalate even further beyond piss on the ground once you notice a car outside with no driver and a blood smear smattered across the driver's seat. There are some blood trails that lead you away and begin a search for a bunch of skulls that are hidden in the petrol station, and some of its immediate surroundings too. There's not a lot of area to actually cover. Each time you find one of said skulls, things get a little weird. These moments were genuinely creepy and gave me that feeling of tension and fear that I crave from a good, scary game. Even if the graphics were a little basic and PlayStation 2-like, There is a certain charm to the visuals from that era of gaming, and for $2.95, who really cares that it doesn't look like Alan Wake 2? You wind up stuck in a toilet with no lights on, hunting around a storeroom that keeps changing its configuration, and being frightened by events that happen out of the corner of your eye that are not quite jump scare worthy, but still gave me a little moment. There were moments when lights would go out or the area being explored was so dark that I had no idea what I was supposed to do, and I was just forced to press buttons until I found a source of light, which was a little frustrating and would momentarily pause the game's creepy atmosphere. Once you collect all the skulls, you follow a little pathway in a wheat field behind the station, which results in a genuinely freaky satanic ritual. Unfortunately, it is a ritual that results in the birth of some horned demon who brings forth a hellfire upon the world, and we all live happily ever after in eternal torture. Yes! A situation for which you, the humble station attendant, were not adequately prepared for by anything in the employee handbook. It is unclear to me what you could do differently to get any alternate endings, so, like I said, I did not feel compelled to go through it again. All I will say is that if you are a fan of creepy titles that are more of an experience than a game, this might be worth a try. Given its very low cost, which I believe is the game's permanent price, there were no specials applied at the time of purchase. Check it out. It's alright if you're pressed for time and want something scary to play this Halloween. The Shadow over Route 80 is only $2.95 on Steam, and why the hell not? It's a hidden gem. I hope you're enjoying this Spooky Bargains series. We've still got more to come, so make sure you hit that subscribe and notify button here on YouTube to make sure you get alerted whenever the Bargain Bin drops a new game. If you are listening to the audio version of this show, make sure that you like and subscribe and leave a 5-star review wherever you are enjoying this podcast from. It will help others find the show. Don't forget that the Bargain Bin Gamer is part of a broader network of podcasts called the BQN. You can help support this and other BQN programs by heading over to patreon.com/BQN and signing up to be a patron. For as little as $2 a month, you can get all kinds of early releases and bonus content. That's it for now. Until we meet again.
Spooky.
What shows are on BQN, you ask? Well, here's a rundown of some podcasts you might be interested in. All Good Things, a Star Trek Universe podcast covering all of Trek, hosted by Amy, Mark, Christos, and Kelvin. Bargain Bin Gamer, a YouTube show hosted by Davey, a self-proclaimed gamer who specializes in reviewing and showcasing affordable video games. If you're lost in the Delta Quadrant, check out The Captain's Couch, a Star Trek Voyager podcast hosted by Jeremiah sitting on Janeway's Ready Room couch. Cinema Z, a film discussion and review podcast showcasing films you probably missed but should definitely check out, hosted by Mark, Matt, and Laz. Beam Aboard the Galaxy Class, a Star Trek Next Generation podcast covering all of TNG, hosted by Amy, Joe, Rhea, and Kevin. History with the Zilagis, a snippet of historical events from around the world, hosted by Chrissy and Jason. For the newest Trek coverage, check out Infinite Diversity, hosted by Chrissy and Thad. Test your Trek knowledge with Treksperts Quiz, a Star Trek quiz show hosted and written by Davey. Union Federation, covering all things Star Trek and the Orville, which we all know is really a Star Trek show, hosted by Kyle, Kevin, Amy, and Haley. Spill the Tea with What's the Tea, Bev, a Trek current events and fan interview show hosted by Christos. And for our Patreon members, we have The Hive Mind, BQN's monthly roundtable discussion with hosts and listeners. It's Green, a cornucopia of topics hosted by Mark. And Amy's Math Moments, a quick look at math moments in Star Trek, hosted by Amy. We know you have a choice of podcasts to choose from, and we thank you for listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
Double T Media.